Thatcher was elected as Prime Minister. And I say this many times, and it's still true, I hated her. I wish I could be like Jeremy and rise above it, but I can't. And I did hate her that much that I did set my alarm clock an hour earlier than I needed, just so I could hate her for an hour longer. Now, since she died, I don't do that anymore. I just set my alarm at the right time, but I still wake up an hour earlier. I can't help it.
Oh dear God, I do hope that we don't have anyone else too deranged to be in this particular party. Well, let's look at another speech. I don't think there will be.
I've never met a bad 4-year-old. I've never met a 4-year-old that was evil. So, every child has a chance, and if we give them a proper education, we'll empty our prisons, we'll have much less problems with the NHS, social issues, we'll probably not have any Tories, because we'll have brought up our kids properly. Thank you.
Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm going to have to go through this, aren't I? Oh, I do want to mention that guy isn't a teacher and he doesn't have kids. So he doesn't understand that 4-year-olds can be complete little shits, assuming they've got the wrong upbringing. I think most 4-year-olds will be fairly able to fit into society, but I do think if you bring them up just completely neglecting them, they will turn out evil. So that guy just doesn't understand what it's like to be a kid. But we will be talking today about the 2018 Labour conference and how some things in their speeches are, well, to put it politely, batshit insane. I have put in the background of this video just a random picture from the, well, not random, but a picture of them waving Palestine flags in the audience of the Labour conference. Because for some reason, when you're in the United Kingdom, they seem to have a massive hard boner for the state of Palestine. Now, I don't really care too much about the Israeli-Palestine conundrum that is in global politics today, but I cannot for the life of me understand why ordinary British working people would care about something so far away from them, but the Labour Party seems to. And they also represent the working class. So I'm just going to leave it in there in the background for everyone to worship. So there you go. Unfortunately, with Labour, they seem to just go on about the Tories for fucking ever, and it is really annoying. So I'm just going to do my best to pick out from the speeches their main points so that I can point out how they're complete morons. But, well, we may as well get straight into it. Here's Angela Rayner.
But conference, I know from my own life that sometimes people need a second chance later in life. So we'll provide not just free higher education, but free further education.
Higher education already is free. You can get to any sixth form in the country for free. Well, not any sixth form, but most countries in the sixth form are already free of charge. They're already on council pay. Like, I don't know what you're talking about there, but with the universities, I mean, you got to realise Labour want the whole country to be going to higher education places, and higher education places like universities should be for the people that can actually earn their way there via academic merit. And then I do believe actually it should be quite expedient in terms of finance, which it isn't at the moment. Because I'm going to put it this way. My debt at the moment from university is £50,000, and there's no way that I'm going to pay that off. So to be honest, it basically already is free, because after 25 years that debt's just written off. And I'm expecting to pay, well, not all of it, half of it. Like, I'm not expecting to pay it. So university tuition is already basically okay as it is. I don't particularly like it, and it does need to change, otherwise you're just going to get a collapse of the economy. But, well, this is Labour we're talking about, but I'll let her carry on.
And we'll ask experts from across the field to join our Lifelong Learning Commission, led by our Shadow Minister Gordon Marsden, because we're not afraid to hear from experts. In fact, we welcome it. We'll do the same when we revise assessment and the curriculum. That includes making sure that people know how to use their rights, including joining a trade union, which changed my life.
That's indoctrination. That's not actually telling people how to think or teaching them how to use critical thinking. That is literally just telling them that you have your rights, this is how you should use them. Oh, by the way, there's this totally optional thing that we think will really help everyone because it really progresses our agenda, because they pay us their money. So please join them so that they get bigger. That's all that's saying. So don't try and bring me this crap of oh, we'll tell them how to use their rights, and if you're going to say you're going to tell them how to use their rights, and then tell them to go to this special interest group to join them, like, I know you're just doing that to try and help yourself, so don't try and give me this crap of you're trying to make them better. I mean, the guy at the start was like, oh, we'll never have Tories if we educate them. Like, come on, get off it. You people are fucking disgusting. Come on. I don't buy into this crap, and I know a lot of people that do, and I don't know how you tell someone that's indoctrinated by this how not to be indoctrinated by it. But honestly, if you're telling me to join a special interest group, I'm not going to trust you, and I don't understand why anyone would, but again, I'll let her carry on.
Conference, after last year's election, there were even some Tories who wanted socialism on the curriculum too. They thought that if they taught young people the history of communism, they wouldn't vote Labour.
That is absolutely true, and after we go through John McDonnell's speech, I hope you will understand why. But honestly, she's telling people to join trade unions, and you've got to understand, in the 70s, trade unions brought the country to its knees by basically stopping all type of productivity, trying to ask for everything from the government that the Labour were trying to give them, and then Thatcher came in and fixed it all. This is why these people hate Thatcher, by the way, because they basically cut off their money supply, and the trade unions are still going somehow, because people who don't understand how economics works still pay into them. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's not even like I'm against workers' rights, it's just crazy that you'd still go on a failing system like this. But, you know, those Tories are right that they were saying that if you teach people history, people just wouldn't vote Labour, because honestly, they're trying to bring in things that have already been tried, and they bring countries to the goddamn ground.
I have to tell them, young people didn't turn to us because they don't know their history, but because they do know their future. They don't need re-education, they need free education.
State schools are completely paid for by the government. Moving on.
Conference, we heard earlier today from our Shadow Chancellor how a Labour government will redistribute wealth, and our National Education Service will play its part. But it's also about redistributing power. Because poverty isn't just about being penniless. It's also about being powerless. Powerless compared to your employer, your landlord, big business, and even the welfare system created to support you, but which the Tories have turned against you.
This is a thing I really don't like about Labour. I mean, I don't understand why anyone should have any type of power over any of that. It's not that I think they should have the power to infringe your rights, which I think generally they don't. However, I don't see why you should have any power over their decisions at all. But Labour seems to think that you should have absolute power over every part of your life, which is just insane. You throw any man into any situation, they're going to understand what power they have and don't have. And I don't understand why they think that every individual in the world can have their own power over these corporations that most of the time generally have earned it. I mean, some are corrupt and I think they should fall down, but you know what I mean. Just these people just seem insane to me. Like, not everyone can have power. Not everyone's power is going to be equal. I don't understand why you're trying to work to make it that way. And they're obviously going to say back, oh, we're just trying to make the world more fair. It's like, yeah, but in that sense, you then just make people who have actually earned their power just completely lose it. And I don't even mean power, I mean wealth, really, because that's what they mean. I mean, let's be real, they conflate power and wealth all the time, and that's not how it works, but what can you do? Anyway, that's about as much as I'm going to show of her speech on education, because quite frankly, I don't really trust Labour on education, because quite clearly, they want to control your mind in terms of wanting to turn you into a trade unionist, and I only think there's one way to think about the world, and not having you as a Tory. But there we go. Moving on, here's some weirdness about Israel and Palestine I was on about before.
But I know as well, and we must all acknowledge, that there are sickening individuals on the fringes of our movement who use our legitimate support for Palestine as a cloak and a cover for their despicable hatred of Jewish people and their desire to see Israel destroyed.
Ooh, we're talking about anti-Semites, are we? Well, I wonder how Jeremy Corbyn's going to react to this, but, she's got a bit more of a speech left. Let's see what she says.
Those people stand for everything that we have always stood against, and they must be kicked out of our party in the same way that we kicked out Oswald Mosley from Liverpool.
Man, she's really going at it, really, comparing all anti-Semites to the fascist Oswald Mosley. I don't know if I'd go that far, but not that I'm saying they're not disgusting, but, well, seems like she's getting a bit of a clap. Oh my God, Corbyn wasn't standing up for any of that. Look at Corbyn on the left. He's right at the bottom next to the woman speaking. He didn't stand up for that standing ovation saying we need to get rid of anti-Semites in our party. What the hell? What the hell is going on with my country? And why would someone not stand up and applaud someone who wants to get rid of anti-Semitism in their country? I couldn't think what type of person to be like that, but, well, here we are. Isn't the people that divide your movement the type of people to throw bricks through moderate Labour people's windows and mainly target women, I have to say, to try and get them out of Labour seats because they went against Corbyn? That's all I'll say, because, I'm not saying Labour are hypocrites, but I am saying they're idiots.
Which poison our online debate and distract us from our job, which is fighting the Tories.
I think I'm going to use that line to beat people with Labour over the head with constantly now. If you really think your job is to defeat the Tories, then I have to say you are in no way for the human race. You are instead for your own goddamn personal agenda because someone's in power that you're not. I mean, really, when I think of myself as a liberalist, I think that I am for people to be free, have liberty and agency, do with their life what they will. All these people are thinking is, how can I defeat those people that are already in power? Because whenever Labour are in the power, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. It's been like that every time they've been voted in, and I don't know why people still vote. Well, I do, it's because their things sound nice, but, I mean, for God's sake, let's see what else she has to say.
Because as Gandhi said, we but mirror the world. If we could change ourselves, the world could also change. But if we can't show the strength to change ourselves, to change the way that we behave to each other, how can we ever hope to change the country and aspire to change the world?
I'm actually totally with her on that. Try and change yourself to be more liberal, love, then I'll probably vote for you. And then she goes on about some lovely little poetic thing about how there are men, marching in the streets with rifles strapped to their backs, looking all Nazi-like. And then it turns out they're all international people, all singing the same song in different languages about world peace and whatever. It's all, who cares about that? I want to hear about actual policies. Oh, is this John McDonnell, Chancellor of the Exchequer, I see? Well, sorry, Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer. I mean, for God's sake, if he was Chancellor of the Exchequer, I'd leave the country like that. Let's listen to some of his policies.
I just want to say something personal before I start. Some of you may know over the recent period, our friends in the media have not been as supportive as maybe we would like them to have been. And they've attacked my friend. They've attacked him because he stands up for the ideals and beliefs that we all have.
Yes, it's shit. Welcome to the political world. A load of people that I know and quite like have been attacked on baseless slander. Moving on.
This month is the 10th anniversary of the financial crash. J.K. Galbraith, in his book on the 29 crash, said, sure, you can try and create institutions that seek to avoid crashes in the future, but the best protection is memory. So it's worth remembering the causes of the crash. They were greed, yes, and the deregulation that turned the city into a multi-billion-pound casino.
A couple of things. Number one, John McDonnell has openly said in the past that he was happy and was waiting forever for a market crash, so I don't know why he's giving off that he's unhappy about the market crash. Second thing is that no, memory will not stop another market crash because it didn't stop the market crash in 2008. What will stop it is allowing the goddamn free market to nourish and thrive. Because part of the problem was that governments put regulations on banks saying you have to give out mortgages to anyone and everyone, even if they can't pay for it. I mean, if you ever think a bank is going to openly say, yes, I will let you have this mortgage even though you can't pay for it, you are batshit insane. But the market crash of '08 is very complicated, but to just put it down to deregulated economies is absolutely insane. And this is the thing, I think John McDonnell knows this. I think he's just happy to lie to you so he can get in power and bring along a communist utopia, but, well, let's carry on.
I want you all to be certain. I want the country to be certain. We will redress the balance of power at work. First, we'll be proud to fulfil our late leader's promise, John Smith's promise, that workers will have trade union rights from day one, whether in full-time, part-time or temporary work.
Trade unions kill businesses. Trade unions kill wages and any chance of a job. Trade unions are basically there to cause problems for the employer, to make sure that regulation doesn't let people be free within their own career path. Trade unions caused lift operators in New York to be earning $84,000 a year, but that means that no one bloody hires them. This is the thing. They demand everything. They want their cake and to eat it, and they stifle free economy. I personally do not like trade unions. I can see why people would say that they are necessary, but to be honest, in the world we live in today, they're not necessary because we have so many laws in the first place that you don't need trade unions to try and ask for more. John McDonnell is an idiot.
We will lift people out of poverty. We'll lift them out of poverty by setting a real living wage of £10 an hour when we go back into government.
All that is going to do is cause more unemployment. Whenever you raise a minimum wage, it means that an employer can afford less people to be employed. It also means that those people on minimum wage have to work harder because the old people who are now unemployed, they now have to pick up the weight that they weren't picking up. You will put more people into poverty with these plans, Mr. McDonnell, but you do not understand that. I know you don't understand that because you are actually advocating it. Well, to be honest, it's either one of two things. Either you actually do believe this and don't understand why it's a problem, and you're really trying to put your heart in the right place, or you just want your selfish socialist paradise to be put onto earth by any means necessary, and that means by giving out these absolutely pointless and dreadful policies to get people to vote for you. You know, pick one. I don't know which it is.
And yes, we'll make it a mission of our government that we will tackle the continued scandal of the gender pay gap that hurts so many women within our society.
Then get women to work the extra 6 hours that they are behind in work hours. I don't want to go any further into the gender wage gap. That is all I'm saying. It is asinine.
Real power comes from having the right to a collective say at work.
This is what I mean. They always go on about power. Oh, I want a collective say at work. I don't. All I want at work is to have my own individual power to do my damn job that I am paid for. I don't get any say in how the company's run because I don't put the risk or the investment into the damn company. But hell, he's going to go on about how there's going to be risk and power in that company.
So after decades of talking about industrial democracy, Labour and government will legislate to implement it. And as Jeremy announced yesterday, a third of the seats on company boards will be allocated to workers so they have democratic rights at work again.
Oh my god, you're going to force companies to have their boards completely reshuffled because you think that there needs to be some type of industrial democracy. What the hell are you talking about? What are you talking about? I don't even know what you mean. All democracy is every individual gets a say in what their government is doing. It doesn't affect individual and private goddamn corporations. It can't. Otherwise it wouldn't be a private corporation if you're forcing them to be a goddamn socialist paradise. Can you stop talking? You don't understand how the world works. How are these people on a stage getting a load of votes by talking this nonsense?
Power also comes from ownership. We believe that workers who create the wealth of a company should share in its ownership, and yes, in the returns that it makes. Employee ownership increases a company's productivity and encourages long-term decision-making.
That is a flat-out fucking lie. The profit motive does both of those things. If you make a decision where profit goes down, then that's bad for short and long-term profit making. Profit is what you pay for efficiency, and it's exactly what you pay for the risk that the goddamn company is putting in it. If you put workers in charge who aren't really going to understand how the world works, not that I don't think they're uneducated, it's just that these board people have to constantly understand how the market's running, while they pay people below them to run the lower ground things where they don't have to worry about those things. That's why they get paid so much. This is insane, and I really don't look forward to what they're going to have to say next.
I can announce today we will legislate for large companies to transfer shares into an inclusive ownership fund. The shares will be held and managed collectively by the workers. The shareholders will give the workers the same rights as other shareholders to have a say over the direction of their company. And yes, dividend payments will be made directly to the workers from the fund. That means payments could be up to £500 a year. That's 11 million workers, each with a greater say and a greater stake in the rewards of their labour.
I honestly don't think there's any quicker way to get any type of business, small or large, to want to leave the country quicker than that bit of legislation. What they're basically saying is that any type of profit made by the company is going to be forcibly taken beyond tax by the government and then forcibly redistributed throughout all their workers, which means that up to £500 worth per worker will be given to them in terms of share and stakeholders, which basically means that the shares that people, foreign investors say, already have in it are for a start inflated, which means that they are worth less. It also means that these people can't make executive decisions, and these executive decisions have, throughout history, I want to add, made sure that corporations can make good and bad decisions that constantly, alright, they do put the worker at risk, but that means that other corporations are more successful and therefore can take on more workers. Alright, if you think that this problem, if it is a problem, is going to be fixed by letting workers have the power to, well, not legislate their company, make decisions for their company, then you are entirely misguided, because the workers don't really want to make choices for the executives, because if they had that choice, they'd be getting paid a hell of a lot more than they are. And you're also saying, oh, they're being rewarded for their work. How is their wage not the reward for their work? You don't get rewarded for work, you get paid for your work. It's not a rewarding experience, apart from your pay that you get, and maybe job satisfaction. But honestly, to give them any slice of the pie of the executives is absolutely mental. I mean, the way they are for a reason, and it's because they work. Because every time that this has tried to be completely revolutionised, it's gone completely wrong. I mean, as I said before, look at any type of communist or socialist state. It goes completely awry. Please don't do this, Labour, because people might vote you in.
We all know it's not just the employees of a company that create the profit it generates. It's the collective investment in infrastructure, in education and research and development that we as a society make that enables entrepreneurs to build and grow their businesses. So we believe it's right that society shares in the benefits that that investment produces. That's why a proportion of the revenues generated by the inclusive ownership funds will be transferred back to our public services as a social dividend.
The greedy bastards are going to tax it as well. Oh, God, this is the thing. This all sounds nice, but this is all just plans to make sure businesses can crash as soon as possible and to get as much money into the Labour government before they crash as they can. This is insane. Please don't vote for these people. This is beyond insanity for me.
You know now we're proud. We're going to extend economic democracy even further in this country. How? By bringing water, energy, Royal Mail, rail back into public ownership again.
Yes, that's Labour being classic Labour. Let's kill business as quick as possible and just nationalise everything. That went really well in the 70s. Oh dear.
Look at the scandal of the privatisation of water. Water bills have risen 40% in real terms since privatisation. £18 billion has been paid out in dividends. Water companies receive more in tax credits than they actually pay in tax. And each day, enough water to meet the needs of 20 million people is lost due to leakages. With figures like that, we can't afford not to take it back into public ownership.
That's just such a weird argument to me. He's basically said that the water company is kind of half nationalised and everything bad about the water companies is because of the private sector. When really, you know, like, I don't really think, I think it's just the fact it's mixed more than anything. I think it actually would be better just to be nationalised, but I think it'd be even better if it was fully privatised, because basically it's just subsidised so it can't fail. But believe it or not, I think water companies should be able to fail so that someone else can come in and fill the gap for it, because it just makes opportunity and people manage to get water for someone else who can afford it to invest in the infrastructure better. But, you know, Labour will never understand this, so what can you do? He then mainly goes on for about 10 minutes about more spending, about how the Tories were bad, how he has radical, literally socialist policies that he wants to implement, and how he's going to have a World Economic Forum led by a Keynesian economist. And for those of you that don't know, Keynesian economy is absolutely asinine, and I don't know why people think he's a good economist, but that's just my personal opinion. But I want to get to his main points near the end of the speech, because, to be honest, the rest of the speech is just waffle.
The Tories' austerity has been brutal. But what I've resented the most is that they've tried to take away the dreams, the hope and optimism of our people, especially our young people. That dream of building a better world. That dream of building a better world and passing it on to your children as previous generations have done. But they've failed to understand us. They've failed to understand that we have an unwavering faith that together people can change the world. And they need to understand we will not settle for anything less. Yesterday, the Tories, it was reported in the press that the Tories were drawing up secret plans for a quick general election. So the message from this conference is, bring it on. Bring it on.
You see, this is what I really don't like about John McDonnell. He'll go through a load of, when you really think about it, really, really devastating policies. And then at the end, he'll be like, yeah, the Tories did something bad. Here's a really nice message about building a dream. And then just tries to win votes off of that. I really don't like that, but I really do think about what people are saying and think about policies more than like the message behind the policies. So I guess that's probably why he's doing it, but it really does just put me in a bad spot. I really don't like John McDonnell, and I do think I don't want to say an evil man, but certainly not a man with good intentions. That's what I'll say. Anyway, Jeremy Corbyn's speech is a goddamn hour long. I can't be bothered going through it, so luckily, other people have just put his main points into a 4-minute clip, so let's go with that.
The Tory government does have one thing we lack. They have tracked down the magic money tree. It's been found and it's been put to use. I'm not going to say good use, it's been put to use. When it was needed to keep Theresa May in Downing Street, it was given a good old shake. And lo and behold, we now know the price of power. It's approximately £100 million for each Democratic Unionist MP.
Yeah, let's not even try to compare £1 billion to the DUP to the literally trillions you were trying to make up for the NHS, the Postal Service, and the police force, and everything else you try to nationalise all in one. No, you cannot compare that at all. It's not a magic money tree to get $1 billion from the Treasury, even though it was put to shit use, and I don't think she should have done it, but, well, that's the situation we're in. But I'd rather her pay the DUP $1 billion than you ruin our industries with the trillions you have to make up for, because you can't pay for the goddamn nationalised services you have just tried to make. So I'm not having that, Corbyn.
And we will control rents when the younger generation's housing costs are 3 times more than those of their grandparents. That is not sustainable. Rent controls exist in many cities across the world, and I want our cities to have those powers too, and tenants to have those protections.
Yes, another thing that doesn't work. All rent controls do is let people who can afford them buy more houses, whether it be for more storage space, whether they want to split up from their goddamn wife, because all you've done there is made the market price for houses go down in terms of rent, and all that does is increase demand where supply is still low. So you end up with a bigger shortage of houses. Unfortunately, that's how economics work, and the best way to probably actually bring demand down for houses, which would naturally make rent prices go down, is to reduce the number of people in the country or reduce the growth of population of the country. Do you know what the best way to do that is? It's to reduce immigration. But Labour don't mention that, do they?
Grenfell is not just the result of bad political decisions. It stands for a failed and broken system. The poet Ben Okri recently wrote in his poem Grenfell Tower, "Those who were living now are dead. Those who were breathing are from the earth fled. If you want to see how the poor die, come to see Grenfell Tower. See the tower and let a world-changing dream flower." Thank you, Ben, for that wonderful poem.
Grenfell was probably the best disaster to happen for Labour. It was a high-rise, overpriced, rented out tower for residents who were of basically multicultural backgrounds, which is both things that Labour is against, especially in this manifesto. And so when that burned down due to poor housing regulation, well, it wasn't even that. It was there was good housing regulation. It was just completely ignored by whatever council was in there. I'm pretty sure it was Tory. But basically everything that could have gone for Labour in that case could have went for them. So now every time Grenfell is mentioned, the Labour are just on it like crazy. And it's basically let them kind of coast through this conference by, you just like, oh, I'm losing the crowd a bit. Oh, I'll mention Grenfell. Oh, see, they all love Grenfell while they wave their goddamn Palestinian flags. It's just, I just find it a bit kind of like, how long do you want to coast on a disaster for? Like, you don't really see the Tories go constantly on about 1970s socialism too much. They just mention it when they need to. Whereas Labour doesn't really do that with Grenfell. They mention it whenever and wherever they can. And I just think it's a bit disgusting in my opinion, but that might just be me. But not that I don't feel bad for the people who died in Grenfell. I think it was a really bad disaster, but you know, it does not. There are other things going on in the world. Like, the whole world doesn't revolve around Grenfell. I mean,
Claimed by the Tories and their loyal media was nasty and personal, and it fueled abuse online. And no one was the target of that more than Diane Abbott.
this is the thing. I have never seen a study about how many personal attacks there actually were compared to how many valid criticisms there were. Because, to be honest, I think calling Diane Abbott an idiot is actually quite objective, because the way she handles herself in interviews and the way she tries to deal with difficult questions is synonymous with a village idiot. Not that I think you should go out your way to abuse her in any way, and I'm sure she did get racial abuse online. In fact, I think I saw some. But, I mean, honestly, to constantly coast on that, trying to claim that this, like, only... He's not saying it only happens to Diane Abbott, but to say she was the biggest victim of it is incredible. Because we know for a fact that men get more of the abuse. So just on those lines alone, it's wrong. But, you know, they have to coast on a message of, we're the victims, please vote for us. And it's just ridiculous. But, well, he has some more things
Anne
to say.
has a decades-long record of campaigning for social justice. And she's suffered intolerable misogynist and racist abuse. There can never, ever be any excuse for any abuse of anybody by anybody. We are not having it, not tolerating it, not accepting it, and not allowing it. Let everyone...
And if your MP's legislations are anything to go off, this means you are going to cut people's freedom from the internet and cut people's freedom in general. Because I know what's happening in Nottinghamshire. The Labour Council there made misogyny a hate crime, and it's just wasted police time. They got, what, 72 actual crimes that turned out to be misogynistic, and then there were about 102 incidents that included wolf whistling. And what happens to these people? Well, they'll probably get extended sentences, and the incidents will probably be put on report. Like, what the hell do you want to do with all that? Like, you don't make people good people by forcing them to be good people. What you do is let them, the individuals, self-regulate. They'll regulate their own behaviour and what they say online by the way that they socially interact with other people. If people don't have social interactions or any good social interactions, then they'll be abusive, and to be honest, they probably won't have many friends, and they'll kill themselves socially. So, you know, not that I'm saying there aren't bad people in the world, it's just you really are writing off the bad in the world rather than what's good. And, you know, if you're making that important enough to be in a speech, then I think you need to get your priorities straight.
Understand this. We've come this journey not to let you down, because we listen to you, because we believe in you. Labour can, and Labour will, deliver a Britain for the many, not the few.
Could you technically make the argument that if you keep losing elections and you keep being minority in the poll, that you are the few? Because if you're for the many, you would have thought the many would have voted for you, but they're not. But I think the way that I'd conclude this entire escapade of different people speaking from the Labour Party is with this. They are trying to ride off people's emotions. Their policies have no successful backing anyway, and they don't have any backing in reality. Every policy they've come out with that I've put in this video just would absolutely destroy the economy, it'd destroy the country, and it'd make people worse off than they already are. So, what do I really think that they're evil? I think McDonnell, as I said before, he's not evil, just doesn't have good intentions. But I think the rest of them do have good intentions. They're so caught up in this own bubble that where they don't really want to see or care for any other viewpoint, that they just simply will not listen to anything that's remotely sounding right wing. And the thing is, the right wing in this country, like the Tories, have gone quite far left. I mean, they are fairly centrist. If you look, I mean, their last what was it, Financial Review or whatever it's called, I mean, it looked like a load of Labour policies. It looked quite on the social side of left wing side of economies, which is quite something. And the thing is, because they're just saying it's still bad, it's just going to keep going further left. And the thing is that the freer a market, generally, the more successful it is. I mean, obviously, you need basic regulations to protect people's rights, such as their life, because you don't want poison in your water, do you? But, you know, generally people are for that. I mean, you'd have to find some retarded ANCAP to agree with that. But this is the thing with Labour. They're left-wing, they want to go further left, and they want to bring the whole country further left. And every time that's happened in the past, you get a communist paradise. I use paradise very loosely there, but, well, that's all I had to say on this subject. So, in the meantime, thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.